You want to play YAPYAP chill, just having a good time. And the game says, sure, go ahead. Then, out of nowhere, you take a hit that feels like a punishment, not because you're bad, but because there are a bunch of little things it simply does not explain to you. And the worst part, they're silly details, the kind that when you finally figure them out, make you want to pause and think, there's no way I suffered because of that. Today I've separated 10 things YAPYAP hides from you, mechanics, silent rules, and traps the game, assumes you already know. And I'm going to tell you in the most direct way possible, because if I had heard this sooner, I would have saved so much time and resources. So come with me, because the video is about to start. There's an unwritten law in YAPYAP that the game hardly explains properly. Entering a cabinet using the E key clears aggro immediately. And when I say instantly, I mean it. You dive into a big wardrobe, and suddenly the monster just forgets about you and walks right past as if you never existed. What gets me the most is seeing beginners doing the exact opposite of what works. They panic, run in a straight line, and try to win through raw effort and speed. But in a pursuit game, running in the line of sight is practically signing your own death warrant because you become an obvious and predictable target. To me, this cabinet mechanic is YAPYAP's mental reset button. You stop reacting in desperation and go back to playing with intention. The cabinet isn't just a hiding spot, it's a repositioning tool. You vanish, break the chase, and gain that second of silence to decide if you're going to heal, swap items, or just resume your route without attracting half the floor. And the most unfair part is that many people die for free without knowing this, thinking they need to be perfect at kiting, zigzagging, or improvised parkour. When you understand that any large wardrobe serves as an immediate escape and that aggro drops instantly upon hiding, the game shifts genres for a moment. It moves from panic to space control. This is the kind of thing the game doesn't tell you and makes you lose for free. The danger of dropped items that are for missions, hidden scrolls, or any important junk that suddenly decides to occupy the same slot as your wands. The first time this happens, you'll swear the game bugged out, because in your head you just picked up an item, but in practice, you just gave up your main wand without realizing it right at the moment you needed it most. I've seen it and felt it happen the classic. You have the attack wand that's carrying your run, you find a mission item, think, I'll grab this real quick and keep going, and boom, your wand is on the floor. Then the game does what it always does best. Ambushes you at the perfect time, and you're left in that horrible second of late realization, mashing buttons only to discover you're basically unarmed. And the worst part isn't even losing the wand. It's the feeling of helplessness. Because combat doesn't give you a polite interval to pick your weapon back up. What makes this so cruel is that outside of the chaos, it looks like a silly mistake. But under pressure, you aren't doing calm inventory management. You're navigating corridors, sound, vision, scares, escape routes, and the game asks for a level of micromanagement that doesn't seem important until it becomes the cause of death. And by the time you try to fix it, it's over. Going back for the wand requires time, space, and having nothing on top of you. 3 things that rarely exist at the same time in YAPYAP. So my personal rule is simple. A mission item isn't loot, it's a risk assessment. If I'm in a dangerous area, I only pick that stuff up when I have real safety to make the swap, and, most importantly, a plan to get out alive if the room decides to turn against me. Because dying without your main wand doesn't feel like a fair defeat. It feels like the game punishing you for a normal player reflex. Seeing an item on the ground and thinking picking it up is always good. The up dog spell looks amazing on paper. A vertical dash that launches you up, takes you out of the line of fire, gives you aerial mobility, and provides that sense of control. But there's a detail the game makes no effort to explain, which has destroyed many good runs. At the peak of the jump, there's a short recovery frame where you freeze. It doesn't matter if you press attack or try to move, you just stay there, suspended in the air, completely vulnerable. The problem is that this moment of immobility seems tiny in the mental tutorial you build for the spell. However, certain enemies, the ones with hit scan attacks, instant, no visible projectile, no warning, no delay, seem programmed to recognize exactly that frame. You activate up dog thinking you're escaping, reach the top of the jump, and take the hit before you even understand where it came from. And the timing is so precise, it feels intentional on the game's part, as if that specific enemy knew you were going to use the spell. What bothers me most about this mechanic is that it completely flips the logic of when to use the dash. In every action game, you learn that mobility is safety, that moving is surviving. Then YAPYAP comes along and says, fine, but there's a point in the middle of your mobility where you are more stationary than if you were standing still on the ground. And you only find this out when you're already in the mental replay of your death, trying to understand why the enemy aimed with such precision at a moment that felt safe. So before you go using up dog in any situation, you need to map the field. Does this enemy have an instant attack? If so, the vertical dash becomes your own trap. The mechanic itself isn't bad, it's powerful, but it requires you to understand its limits before launching yourself up thinking you're invincible in the air. In YAPYAP, the moment of greatest movement can be exactly the moment of greatest risk. And knowing this completely changes how you decide when to use the spell. This is the kind of death that leaves you staring at the screen in silence. YAPYAP's physics are unforgiving when you decide to play around with pulling the environment using Tempest. You see a stone statue or some heavy object and think, I'll pull it close, use it as cover, solve a quick puzzle. But if that thing comes at you with force, the game can pin you against a wall and delete you with an instant physics death. No combat, no chance to react. The most annoying part is that your intention is correct, space control. But in practice, you just created a runaway train headed for your chest, and your character doesn't have enough mass to compete with a giant stone being pulled. The feeling is that you didn't die to an enemy, you died to an idea. And it hurts because it's such a clean death. 1 second you're playing, the next you've become part of the decor. Once I understood this, I started treating Tempest as a tool that requires distance and angles, not just timing. Pulling something heavy in a straight line toward yourself, with a wall behind you, is literally putting yourself on the tracks of the impact. And the thing is, in the heat of the moment, you don't think I'm cornering myself. You just want the object in your hand now, and the game charges you for that haste. So, a personal rule I live by in YAPYAP. If the object looks heavy, I never pull it while standing against a wall. And I always leave a lateral escape route before casting. If I really want to use a statue, I reposition first, pull from a safer angle, and let the stone pass by me instead of coming straight for my face. Because in this game, sometimes the monster doesn't even need to touch you. You just need to become your own enemy through physics. This is one of those tips that sounds contradictory the first time you hear it. You got to the hub, sell everything. But it makes total sense once you understand the game's logic. The starting items you carry from the first run have much more value as gold than as equipment because they've already served their purpose. The starter, Wind Wand, for example, is what carries you through night 1. But in the following nights, it becomes practically dead weight that can't handle real combat. The problem with hoarding everything is that you enter the second night still in a saving mindset, not realizing the game has already jumped up in difficulty. The difference between arriving with a Storm Wand versus a starter Wind Wand isn't gradual, it's an abyss. One gives you the option to handle complicated situations with authority, the other makes you pray. You don't run into anything heavy, and YAPYAP has no mercy for those who go in under-equipped, thinking they'll get by on improvisation. What strikes me about this mechanic is that it goes against a player's natural instinct. You collect things, you store things, you don't give up equipment that worked. But the game has a difficulty curve that grows fast, and it never explicitly warns you that the hub is the exact moment to upgrade or pay the price later. You only find out when you're in night 2, with a weak wand trying to run away from something you clearly shouldn't be facing with that loadout. So the rule is simple and has no exceptions for me. Got to the hub, do inventory, sell what doesn't scale for the next nights, and convert it into gold for the wand that actually gets the job done. It's not a luxury, It's run maintenance. YAPYAP won't stop to tell you, hey, you're weak. It just shows you at the wrong time when you're already in the middle of chaos without the tools to get out. When the timer hits 0, it's not just one more wave. It's the game telling you the fun is over, and the blue ghost acts as a delete match button. I've seen this happen so fast and so cruelly that it's infuriating, because it doesn't matter if you're well equipped or if the squad is playing perfectly. If it catches you, it kills everything instantly, and that's it. Run over. The error that most often takes down an entire team is greed disguised as efficiency. Just one more painting, just one more drop, just one more room, and we go. And it's always then that people split up. Someone gets stuck in an animation. Another grabs an item, another tries to fight. And when the ghost appears, there is no plan B. There's no time to reorganize, no time to revive, no time for heroism, because it is literally checkmate. For me, the mindset shift that saves runs is treating the end of the clock as an evacuation, not a farm. I stop farming at least 1 minute before, close the mental bag, and start playing strictly to reach the purple tower alive. That 1 minute is a margin for human error. Wrong path, blocked door, enemy in the corridor, people taking too long to group up anything. And most importantly, this is squad discipline, not just one player. If one person says, let's go, and the others stay for just one more, you already know the ending. So I like to have it agreed upon. Timer getting close to the end, everyone drops their ego, drops the loot, and runs together to the purple tower. Because in YAPYAP, the difference between a smart squad and a dead squad is usually exactly that, knowing when to stop. If there's one habit YAPYAP lets you develop and then punishes you for in the hub, it's breaking everything before checking. I learned the hard way. Drawers and cabinets aren't just decor, they are cash registers. Often, that's where the loose gold, potion items, frogs, those small things that add up to 5, 10, 20 gold, are hidden, and they make an absurd difference when you get back to the hub and realize you're short on buying what actually matters. The problem is that breaking things is satisfying and fast, so your brain goes into room clearing mode and you don't even think. But destroying without opening first is like tearing your pocket and throwing coins away. You don't see what you lost, you only feel it later. Then you reach the hub wondering why you're always poor, why the top tier wand always seems out of reach. And the answer lies in those micro loots that you shredded yourself out of haste. I treat this as a ritual. Enter a room, scan calmly, and open everything that can be opened before turning into the Hulk. Drawers first, cabinets first, then you break whatever you want. This also makes you more aware of the space, because while you're opening things, you're already understanding escape routes, seeing where the cover is, and you don't get stuck in a I broke it and now I'm exposed situation when an enemy decides to show up. And the funny thing is, this tip is simple, but it changes the rhythm of the run. You stop depending on big luck and start building a consistent economy, run after run. In YAPYAP, those who seem lucky in the hub are often just disciplined in the basics, checking before breaking. Because getting rich in this game is, most of the time, about not wasting what's right in front of you. There is a detail that completely changes your pace, and the game doesn't bother to hammer home. Burning gives double the chaos points of breaking. So when I see a beginner punching boxes, smashing paintings, and demolishing furniture by hand, I already know how it ends. It's going to take forever to hit the quota, they'll stay exposed longer, and in the end, they'll die to the ghost because they were just a little bit short. Fire is a progression shortcut, period. If you have a torch or any consistent way to set things on fire, that becomes your standard farming method. Boxes, paintings, furniture, everything that turns into points faster. Breaking still works, sure, but it's the slow plan, the plan of someone forcing themselves to stay in danger longer by not using the most efficient mechanic right in front of them. And the worst part is that this delay creates a domino effect. The more time you spend finishing the quota, the more enemies appear, the more disorganized you get, the more resources you spend, the more loot you leave behind, and the more the run starts to become a desperate race. Then comes that classic squad phrase, just one more painting. Except that without fire, that one more turns into 10 more, and the clock has no pity. Today, I play with a very simple mindset. If the goal is fast, chaos. I prioritize fire and use brute force only when there's no other option. Burning is efficiency, and efficiency is survival. Because every second you save farming is one less second giving the game a chance to corner you, and one more second for you to do what actually matters. Getting out alive before the ghost decides the game is over. The compass in YAPYAP is that kind of tool that seems like a HUD detail until the day you realize it literally saves your run. And the trick is quite simple, but nobody tells you properly. You rotate the camera slowly until the little dots disappear, and then only the central globe remains with those glowing lines pointing directly to the extraction. And even better, it also gives you a sense of vertical height, so you stop banging your head against the wrong stairs and dead-end corridors. What happens with most beginners is a loop of despair. The castle is giant, everything looks the same, you think you remember the way, you take 2 turns and you're already somewhere completely different. Then you start running on impulse, enter rooms you didn't need to, pull aggro, waste time with doors, waste time with fights, and before you know it, the timer's in the red and you're still looking for the exit as if it were a lottery. For me, the compass becomes a ritual in the final minutes. Stop for half a second, rotate the view, clear the dots, confirm direction and height, and only then do I make a routing decision. This shifts your brain from fleeing to navigating, because you stop making choices in panic and start making choices based on information. And information in YAPYAP is what separates a clean extraction from a death that feels unfair. The truth is, without using this, you will lose runs not for lack of damage or wands, but because of geometry. Too many corridors, too many floors, too many wrong turns. Then the game punishes you in the most brutal way possible. Because when time runs out and the ghost comes, it doesn't matter if you were almost there. You just learn that almost doesn't extract anyone. What extracts people is using the compass to turn that giant castle into a clear arrow saying, go this way and go up now. Slime in a corridor seems like just a visual obstacle until you try to solve it the wrong way, and then you realize it is, in practice, a wall with an attitude. Using fish hook in this situation is throwing resources away. It doesn't work. It doesn't clear the path. It doesn't do anything useful besides leaving you standing in front of something that didn't die, while the game is already preparing what's coming behind to complicate everything. Piss yuck is the right answer. And when you use it, the difference is immediate and satisfying. The slime explodes, the path opens, and you regain control of the situation. It sounds simple, but the real weight of this mechanic lies in the cost of being wrong. You don't just lose the wrong uke, you waste time standing at a point of vulnerability. And YAPYAP charges for that kind of pause, with enemies that appear at the worst possible time. What bothers me is that the game doesn't signal this clearly. You see slime, you see you have ukes available, you test what seems to make sense narratively or visually, and you find out in practice that you were wrong. But finding out in practice, here, means a worse monster in the corridor, with you still stuck without an exit route, which is basically the summary of how YAPYAP teaches you things, through pain. So I burn this into my reflexes. If you see slime blocking the way, go straight for the piss yuck, no hesitation, no testing alternatives, no improvising. Because in this game, efficiency isn't a luxury for advanced players. It's the foundation of survival for everyone. Those who learn the right uke early stop dying while stuck, and those who stop dying while stuck start having plenty of time to worry about the bigger problems the game is still going to invent.